we do have the pleasure of Dr. Paul Yannick being here, and it's going to be quite fascinating for everybody. But I am going to bring some understanding to some of the concepts that he talks about, because he practices and he teaches doctors mostly. So he doesn't really, I'm a layman and I had to translate it for my understanding, so I'm going to translate it for you as well as best I can. By the way, if you don't know, there's a few people I may not know. I'm Brian Foltz. I'm the founder and CEO of Hydra Blue. There are several other founders that are here today as well. They've been working with me for years. Dr. Joe Ferrara is back here. Dr. Jonathan Lemler is right here. Dr. Carolyn Mine is here. And Dr. Stuart Hoffman. And all of these doctors have been real instrumental in our success to date. And I really appreciate their help. We've done a lot of testing and a lot of searching, and we've come to the point now where we're ready to launch a product into the market, and we're real excited about that. So I wanted to just briefly go through some key concepts to understand about hydration and energy and water, and some of the things that Dr. Yannick is going to get more detail about. And then we're going to have a question and answer period after Dr. Yannick talks. I don't know how many of you know of Dr. Yannick's story, but it's a fascinating story. He's had three times he's fought off life-threatening diseases, and his first battle was when he was just in college. As 20 years old, he was sent home to die with fatal kidney disease, and because of his asthma and other problems, he was given lots of injections of antibiotics and steroids and all kinds of things that basically shut down his kidney and caused him to blow both his eardrums out. So he was basically had gone deaf and sent home to die. So that's where his research started. He didn't accept that diagnosis, so he went home and he changed his major from electronics to nutrition. And he started studying about food-based nutrition and went into the field of audiology. He developed the first very successful hearing aid that is still in use today, and many other technologies. But that hearing aid was kind of stolen from him, and then he sued him and got a settlement and moved on. But what happened was he was out front and doing a lot of really good things, publicity and all kinds of things in the field of audiology and for the hearing, and restoring the hearing and the neurological networks that are required for hearing through nutrition, through food-based nutrition. And nobody had ever done that before. And this is what, 40 years ago. And so when he got attacked by the establishment, what happened was he was told by the audiology, not department, but association that was holding his license, they said, you can't practice nutrition and audiology at the same time. You can't combine these two things. And so he left. He said, okay, see ya. And so he went in, got his PhD in clinical nutrition, and went in the whole another direction deeper into nutrition. He wrote a number of books, taught endocrinology, and basically has stayed under the radar ever since. And then, I don't know how many years later exactly it was, but he developed a life-threatening lymphoma that he was diagnosed with. He had to overcome pancreatic cancer. So he overcame that with deeper research. So this has been a survival mode for him in his research, and at the same time helping other critically sick patients. And so this research has really touched a lot of lives, and his history and his track record on this is very personal. Now I want to basically just go through this real quick. Our mission at Hydra Blue is to help millions of people improve their health through better hydration and better understanding of natural energy, water, and hydration. And as most people know, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because most of you are all pretty educated about what we do, but 90% of the patients that we tested were chronically dehydrated. And the reason is because the water they're drinking is dead water. It doesn't have any living energy in it. Okay? It's like water that is like overcooked food. You know, it's going to keep you alive, but it's not going to fully nourish you. Okay, so the dead water that people are drinking without that living energy, it's keeping them alive, but it's not fully hydrating them. Okay, so the product that we have, Hydra Blue, is like raw food. Okay, it's just like picking it off the tree. It has all that living energy that fully nourishes the body. Well, this fully hydrates the body because it's got that living energy. Okay, and the reason that's important is because chronic dehydration, for every 1% you're dehydrated, your cells lose 10% of their energy production. Okay, 10%. And Dr. Yannick's going to talk about a little bit more about the biology of that, but that's a lot. So most people are 2 to 3% dehydrated, so that means a 20 to 30% deficit in energy production at the cellular level on an ongoing basis. I mean, that's accelerated aging. I mean, that just, doesn't get more basic than that. So what happens is the energy goes down when you're dehydrated, and you don't sleep as well. There's other problems, digestion problems, a whole cascade of problems, including stress, the stress hormone, histamine, the stress hormone, all these other things start happening, and it affects your health in a lot of ways. So as you see on here, it contributes to a lot of different problems. There's a number of books I have up here that we've used in our research. One key book that we used was Dr. Batman Galige. Dr. Batman, we call him. He wrote the initial book, Your Body's Many Cries for Water. And this is the book that I remembered when I first started my research. And this was about 12 years ago, I think, 13 years ago, I think. Yeah, 13 years ago, my son was diagnosed with asthma. And I'll try not to get emotional about it. But anyway, for a father, that's tough, because I knew enough about health to understand that oxygen to the brain is extremely important, okay, and in a developing child. So it really concerned me, and I remember this book that was written about how chronic dehydration can cause allergies, asthma, all kinds of problems. So I tried to address the problem with water and hydration, and it helped a little bit, but it didn't fully handle the problem. And I was fortunate enough to be working with alternative practitioners at the time, and I got together with a bunch of them. We started researching the subject of chronic dehydration. And that's where the research started, and it continued. And I went through 2 other nature-based technologies for water, and I finally found Dr. Yannick. And one of the things that I appreciated immediately from Dr. Yannick was that it wasn't just about the water, it's about the rest of the body too. Because if your liver's toxic, you can't stay hydrated, okay? So it's not just about the water, it's about a lot of other things. And so after 8 years, my son doesn't have asthma anymore. So it's been, I think, 4 or 5 years now. He's completely been free of asthma. And it's because of Dr. Yannick's work, and the hydration, of course, is important as well. But that's where the research started, and that's where it's continued. And that sort of gives you a little bit of background of where we come from. So the ultra hydration solution, when we talk about this is about the full spectrum energized water that hydrates the body. And it's also about the food that you eat. You've got to eat high water content food. It's about toxicity. It's about other things as well. But right now we're talking about Hydra Blue water. And the vast majority of the people that drink our water, they drink 2 bottles a day. Within 3 to 5 days, they feel a lot more energy. And so we know that it works. We know hydration is improved. And then as you stay on the product, you get a cumulative benefit. Because as the cells stay well hydrated, they're producing more energy. So the body's able to heal itself better. It's able to regenerate. It's helping the microbiome, which Dr. Yannick will talk about. And you're going to sleep better. The skin is going to improve. Digestion is going to improve. Inflammation is going to be improved. And as those benefits accumulate, the benefit continues to get better and better. And then when you stop drinking the water, as many people will attest to, your energy goes down. Okay? So we have a product that we're very proud of. So our technology was developed by Dr. Yannick. He's the scientist, clinician, inventor, founder of quantum medicine. He's got quite a number of different inventions that he's responsible for over the years. And what's interesting is how the scientific journals now that are coming out are validating with tons of research the things that he was doing 15 and 20 years ago. And that's just been a constant, all over the last few years especially. And so what he's doing now and talking about now is 15 to 20 years ahead of where everybody else is. And that includes this whole subject of water. And so what this technology does is it mimics how nature energizes water under ideal conditions. And nature energizes water with the 2 primary forces of nature, motion and vibration. Okay? And as water is going through the water cycle, it is going through all kinds of motion, and implosion is the most powerful motion in nature. Okay? And when water is imploding in the middle of a vortex or at the bottom of a waterfall, when water is hitting water, it's the same principle as homeopathic medicine, you know, where they succuss it. They take an ingredient and they succuss it. Well, the pounding of that water when they're making a homeopathic remedy is an implosion. And when water is imploding, it absorbs the frequencies of any element that is around it. Okay? So as water is traveling through the water cycle, it picks up the frequencies of the earth, the gemstones, the vegetation, everything. The oxygen, it's oxygenated, the sunlight, everything. And so it's the vibrations that are being absorbed onto the water as it's going through that motion that creates that living energy that nature naturally provides. And so this technology mimics that process. And he'll give you a little bit more detail about it. But it's important to understand that it's not only the frequencies, but it's the polarity. And we'll talk a little bit about that more. But the body is like a battery. It has a plus and a minus. And every cell in the body has its own polarity. It has its own battery-like polarity. Okay? And if it doesn't have the polarity to it, then it's not going to hold that energy. Okay? And we'll talk a lot more about polarity in a little bit. And what's important to understand about the frequencies is these are super high frequencies we're talking about. We're talking nanotesla, exahertz frequencies and nanotesla. These are super, super high frequencies. And these are the healing frequencies. And that's what's in the Hydra Blue water. And that's because of the energy field that was developed through the technology, through the device that we use to energize the water. The water itself comes from an incredible source in Blue Springs, Georgia, as most of you know. This entire water source is made of quartz crystal rock, which is a fantastic barrier against electronic frequencies, EMFs, electronic pollution, and it's very low in minerals as well. So it's a tremendously high polarity water to begin with, and then we put it through the technology. So here's a picture of you can see the dynamic structure of the water before and after. This is purified water on the left side before the technology, and this is after. And Paul will show you a little video clip of this, and you can see how the water moves. It's pretty amazing. This was done by an independent lab, University of Florida, that took these pictures and video clips. This is our source water I talked about. We bottle at the source in Georgia. This is a picture of the spring where it comes out. And this is our website and video. If you've not been there, we've got a really great 7-minute video that explains the whole process. But these are the key concepts that you need to understand. We talked about hydration, what it is. You can't think of hydration as like filling up a gas tank. Okay, it's not like you're low on water and you got to fill up. Okay, and that's how most people kind of think about it. Hydration is a dynamic balance of water moving in and out of the cells. Okay, and you got to have enough inside the cells. It's a ratio. Okay, most people have enough water outside the cells, or total body water, but not enough inside the cells. So it's that process of the body maintaining that dynamic equilibrium of water moving in and out of the cells. So hydration is a very complex subject when it comes to the cellular level. And so chronic dehydration is just long-term lack of water inside the cells. And dead water is energetically dead water, water that doesn't have the living energy that matches the body's energy. Because if the water you're drinking doesn't match the body's energy, then it's taking energy from the system. Okay? It's not going to fully hydrate. It's not going to fully detoxify the body. And frequencies, we know what frequencies are. Frequencies are a measurement of energy. It's a way to measure energy. We'll get more into that a little bit later. Full spectrum energy, what that means is the full spectrum of frequencies that are in the human body's energy field and in nature. You know, Tesla was tapping into this energy field that's just out in the space. It's called zero-point energy. Well, that's the full spectrum of energy that is available and is in plants and is in raw food and it's in the body. So if it doesn't have that full spectrum of frequencies, it doesn't match the body's energy. The last key concept I want to talk about briefly is polarity, because as a layman, I really needed to research this. I needed to understand this. I just don't accept terms. It's just not my nature. I look them up, and I highly recommend looking terms up when you don't understand what it means, or even if you think you know what it means, because you'll be surprised. Polarity is the differential of a charge. Okay, so it's like a battery. You got a plus and a minus, right? And you also have the base. So you got the base and you got the plus and the minus. Without those three things, energy doesn't move. It doesn't transfer. Okay? So you need both of those things. You need that differential. Now when you say strong polarity, you have something that has strong polarity. What does that mean? Well, that means that differential of charge is greater. Okay? That plus and minus is greater. So when you have higher frequencies, you have higher polarity. You see? Because that frequency compared to the plus and the minus are higher. So you've got a bigger potential. So the stronger the polarity, the higher the frequency, and the more deeply it resonates through something. So think of polarity as a battery and as a negative and a positive. And when you talk about good polarity and strong polarity, it's the amount of difference. Okay, so it's a difference in the charge that's important. So when he talks about cell polarity, and a cell has polarity, and it has to have polarity in order to survive. And if you knock out that polarity, what do you do to the cell? You kill the cell because it can't transfer energy. Okay, that's why when you drink alkaline water, it actually kills off cells because it knocks out the polarity in the gut. Okay, and in fact, there's a medical doctor that talked about that in his latest book. They talked about that exactly, that the energy that some people feel from alkaline water is the energy die-off from the cells that are dying. Okay, Dr. Gabriel Cousins. All right, so it has to do with polarity. So anything that improves the cellular polarity is good. Anything that doesn't is not good. And he'll talk much more about that. So without further delay, I want to bring up my friend and cohort, Mr. Dr. Paul Yannick.
Thank you for coming. What we're going to expand on what Brian said, show you some of the science behind the water system, but also show you the supremacy of nature and how trusting in nature's wisdom and observing how water appears in a pristine natural environment is the incredible wisdom of nature. So we have a nice series of illustrations and research data. We don't have time to cover all the research data, so I'm going to skim over that quite quickly, or we'll be here for 3 hours. So we're going to talk about the quantum. There's something I want to tell you about quantum. This just came out of a Scientific American, August 2013. Okay, and here, Dr. Coleman, one of the world-renowned quantum physicists, made a statement about the quantum theory. He said, quote, "Quantum field theory provides the conceptual underpinnings of the standard model of particle physics, which describes the fundamental building blocks of matter and their interactions in one common framework. In terms of empirical precision, it is the most successful theory in the history of science," end of quote. I have been involved with the quantum theory since 1981 when I coined the term quantum medicine. After that came quantum nutrition. And so I've always been interested in this quantum domain of life and what wisdom there was untapped in nature to help us understand what Hippocrates was saying a long time ago about this greatest healing force in the body and how to tap into it. The thing about nature is it doesn't need to be proven scientifically. It needs to be understood. We don't need to prove it right or wrong. We need to understand it. And the deeper understanding we have of it, the more solutions we'll have for the problems facing humanity, the worldwide pollution and problems facing humanity. At any rate, bear with me here. So, as Brian brought out very nicely, the problem with water is that the water we're drinking is not coming from a natural environment. The ecosystem has been disrupted. Water is going through purification, chlorination, water softeners, all types of ways that water is being disrupted. What happens when water is disrupted is it loses its resonant polarities. See, I don't like the term frequency, and I don't like the term soul resonant. because the term cell resonance is a misnomer, because resonance has very little to do with health if it's not intertwined with polarity. I found that out the hard way. You see, when I got into the quantum domain, I got into bioresonance, different German techniques that were involved with physics, but I couldn't save my life. I couldn't help a lot of people with it. There was no question I was getting some results, but the answer wasn't there. The answer was in restoring cell polarity. And that's what water does. It's the critical link that restores how cells communicate with one another, how they adapt to the environment, and how they keep us well. So even the redox potential, oxidative stress, depends, the Krebs cycle, the energy cycle of the cells, all depend on water, hydrating the cell, how the cell cleanses itself, how it takes in nutrition. All that depends on water. So here's the statement we made before about Hippocrates. You all know that statement. But the greatest healing force is truly within the body. And one of the most important critical nutrients is water. But what matters is whether the water has been raped, distorted, ionic, whether it's carrying electrical information, whether it's carrying Wi-Fi frequencies. That's what matters. I mean, what's in the water today that we're drinking? Water holds a memory. That's the principle of homeopathic medicine. So our food should be our medicine, and we should trust in nature. So the greatest healing force is the body's inner physician. And what we're looking at, everything is intertwined, interweaved together. You can't separate systems and organs and treat them. We're looking at the main goal to restore wholeness. Restore the inner ecosystem or microbiome, because that's where massive amounts of healing compounds and hundreds of thousands of unknown nutrients are produced to nourish our cells, to fight cancer, to deal with oxidative stress, to detoxify our bodies of all types of compounds, toxins, solvents, you name it. So water then unifies the body. That's what we're saying. It's the lifeblood of the inner ecosystem. If we put the right type of water in, the microbial cells will expand, colonize the gut, flourish into hundreds of strains, will be able to restore the sustainability and the biodiversity of the body's inner ecosystem. So microbial cells and human cells are made mostly of water. We know that. So obviously, the type of water we consume, shower, or bathe with has a great influence on the efficiency, I should say the performance efficiency, of our cells. So without nature's recipe for water in the quantum domain, it's impossible to restore the inner ecosystem. It's impossible to improve, to optimize cellular health. When we look at the cycle in nature, we see that water goes through a process of being recycled. It's exposed to sunlight. It's exposed to heat. It's exposed to oxygen. It's exposed to all types of energies as it runs through a stream and then goes down a waterfall. Implosion. Implosion is a very powerful process in quantum physics. Implosion can erase the homeopathic imprints of toxins in water. Implosion can also literally clear the water of all ionic, electrical, Wi-Fi, cell phone frequencies that get in water. Remember, water has memory. We're going to talk more about that in a few minutes. The body, nature has a regenerative ecosystem. We know it's being disrupted. The evidence is coming. So many species are dying off. We see the disruption in nature. And so these implosive forces and resonant polarities that sustain life are being zapped from water. And so mankind keeps polluting the earth in attempts to purify, alter, or soften water. the problem gets worse, because now water contains ionic charges that disrupt cell polarity. There are 3 things, there are actually 12 things that are important to restore wholeness. The first one is oxygen. The second is water. The third is polarity. I'm not talking about pH at all here. The important thing to remember is leading Nobel laureate scientists have proven that our microbiome detoxifies our body better than our human cells and liver. They've also proven that the microbiome makes regenerative compounds that blow away stem cells and anything we can do in the name of nutrition or hormonal therapies. So when we look at nature, we say, what's the truth? The sun exists. That's the truth. You see a rainbow? That's the truth. It's unchangeable. It doesn't have to be proven scientifically. But if somebody were able to develop technology that can put that in water and prove it under a microscope, then they have successfully been able to mimic or copy this wisdom in nature. And that's what we're talking about. Science is full of theories, lies, frauds, and myths. There's no question that we benefited from science. But most of what comes off is contaminated and corrupted by commercialism. So as we go on, we see this article in the Scientific American March, The End of Orange Juice. What GMOs are doing to crops, to find alfalfa that was pure and not GMO cross-contaminated. I couldn't find any in the United States. I had to go to Canada, Canadian Rockies. So this is what's happening to the earth with pollution. Massive amounts of deaths. 6.7 million bats have died in the past 5 years. 20 tons of dead fish in Norway. 100 tons of dead fish in Brazil. Hundreds of dead dolphins in the Atlantic. 3,000 dead dolphins, 1,200 dead pelicans in Peru. I mean, the news reports keep coming. And what do the leading scientists say the cause is? Water. The water is losing its resonant polarities. The water is losing its rainbow colorations, its frequencies. Water is not able to keep these species alive. So when we look at the contamination of the environment, these are some of the pictures of the die-offs. 10,000 tons of fish died in Iceland. February 6, 2013, 10,000 tons. Iceland has some of the cleanest waters in the world, but look what's happening. So water sustains life, but if we keep polluting water, and if we don't restore what nature intended in water, we're facing serious problems. So we look at what can go wrong with water. Well, we can have water causing electromagnetic stress, ionic stress, and now MOX plutonium, radioactive stress. The Japan crisis has infiltrated the oceans and the air with MOX plutonium, which makes Chernobyl radiation look like nothing. MOX plutonium is very lethal, very toxic. And the only way the body can get rid of that is with water that can hydrate deep enough, that can activate the microbiome to cleanse the body. That's what we're saying. How pollution is affecting the body. The key is to keep the body excreting these toxins, because we can't do much about pollution, can we? We have to breathe polluted air. We have to eat food that has pollution in it. No matter, even if it's organic, no food is 100% free of pollution today. The long-term effects of pollution are known. There's a website called www.bodyburden.com, and they did research on placentas of babies born in the past 20 or 30 years. Guess what they found? DDT, pesticides, mercury, lead, cadmium in the placenta. This is something, we're born toxic today. each generation we're born more toxic. And that's the thing that we're concerned about. So the need for better water and hydration is getting greater and greater. Now we have, this is a picture of all the satellites circulating the Earth. I mean, now we have another form of pollution, coherent frequencies, gigahertz, megahertz. Gigahertz promotes viral replication. You have your cell phone on, and you're trying to get rid of hepatitis B or C, forget it. Unless you rise above gigahertz and get into the exahertz realm, the water is going to oscillate and carry the memory of your cell phone frequencies. This is the world we live in now. So the challenges are getting greater and greater. So we have man-made chemicals, man-made electromagnetic frequencies that are coherent. Research has shown they harm the brain. They reduce attention span. They cause all kinds of nervous system problems. One study, Hypertension 2013 journal, they showed blood pressure has increased 27% over 13 years in young adults. Where is it coming from? What did they blame? Sodium. They blame salt, but they're not blaming the sodium that comes from water softeners, which is even more lethal because sodium chloride is split synthetically and very unstable, far worse than table salt, because the body cannot really split sodium and chloride. Only through the miracle of photosynthesis can that be done. So what happens is when we shower with a water softener or drink that water, creating a lot of stress in the body, a lot of stress. So the idea is nature, if you ever seen a waterfall and a rainbow coming off the waterfall, this is the way water should look in nature, you see. It's going through, it's getting exposed to sunlight, oxygen, it's mixing with the environment, over stones, rocks, the magnetic field of the earth. Everything is going through this process. It's being purified. It's a regeneration cycle. But if water is sitting in your well stagnant for years, that's not happening anymore. So we have to find a way to put that back, especially when man is now, because pollution is rising, so are water purification techniques. They're getting more aggressive, more chlorine. They're even doing chloride. New York City, Staten Island, they put fluoride in water. In addition, aluminum sulfate. You would not believe some of the things they do in water purification plants. But the thing is, the water is coming through ionically and electrically unstable. And it's disrupting not only how the nerves, the neurons regulate the body, but it's disrupting the microbes and the inner ecosystem. The very means for us getting nourishment and keeping our body cleansed. So we understand that the body inner position and restoring wholeness to it in the embryologic wisdom pattern that we were talking about earlier today, if we restore that embryologic wisdom, that pattern. So the idea is when scientists look at a rainbow, they're in awe about it. There are some theories, but nobody really understands how rainbows are formed. But this is the infallible wisdom in nature. Yet, this water, this spectrum of color, and this arc shape is formed when sunlight interacts with water that's healthy. That's what happens. When water is healthy and vibrant, that's what's going to happen. But water needs to move. It needs to be oxygenated. It needs implosion, waterfall effects. It needs constantly to be in motion to be healthy. And that's the point we're trying to make. So the body has polarity. We have reciprocal, afferent, efferent, vagus. We have arrestor, initiator, sympathetic, parasympathetic, pro-inflammation, anti-inflammatory. So the body has to be in a state of polarity over many, many different functions. If we disrupt cell polarity, we diminish the ability of the inner physician and the microbiome to regulate our body and to heal our bodies. The water is, it underpins life, and water is, its cycle of generation and regeneration in nature has been disrupted. It's very hard to find any pristine, natural, unpolluted water anywhere. So what I've done is over 10 years of research to look at, if that's what water looks like in nature, how can I duplicate that? Back and forth to the University of Florida, Florida State University, Dr. Michael Davison, under a polarized microscope, looking at water that I treated different ways, looking at water that was untreated. We got the rainbow colors, we got prisms and crystallization patterns, and the effect on the water with patients was unbelievable. Blood pressure normalizing, that was always difficult to control. Skin problems, clearing, itchy, dry skin, visual problems, even cases of inflammation, joint, muscle inflammation, clearing up simply by putting back what nature intended and hydrating our system with full spectrum water. The roots of wholeness then is water. That's the primary function of water. Water today is critically important for many functions of the cell. The blood component, it's important for digestion, metabolism, regulation, detoxification, cleansing, nourishment, very important. And when we think about the polarity of water, we're talking about covalent bonding, weak covalent bonding. We're not talking about ionic bonding. So people that tamper with water to make it ionic or alkaline or messing, they're going in the wrong direction, because the bonding of water has to be covalent. It has to be, what I mean by covalent, a weak bond, and not a strong electromagnetic bond that only photosynthesis and microbes in the soil can actually break down, not hard rock minerals. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about polarity of water, allowing water to be superconductive, to hold all that energy, and to take us to its superorganism potential. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But anyway, there's the nonpolar covalent bond, the polar bond, and the ionic bond. Now, with water softeners, for example, what they do is they take a strong ionic bond and they split sodium and chloride. And then they put the sodium back, split, unstable, into the water. When it gets into the system, it disrupts polarity. The first thing it does is it desensitizes and numbs the neurons. So the sensory afferent nervous system, sensory afferent vagus, feels less. And we perceive we're feeling better. That's why people drink this water. They feel less of their inflammation, but the inflammation rages on. And so what I'm saying is we have to be careful about the bonding. And when we talk about polarity, what we're actually talking about, we have to define it. Not ionic, covalent. That's important. So this is just the science of different charges in water, showing that water is, in fact, electrical in a tetrahedron shape, that water is highly flexible and can hold any type of energy that it's exposed to. Doesn't matter if it's Wi-Fi frequencies, cell phones, whatever it is, it will hold on to the memory of that energy. Water, the polarity has been proven in research to affect capillary action, hydration potential, and regeneration potential through bioelectric signaling of cells. So we realize that we lose this with current purification methods, oil well drilling, fracking, deforestation, widespread pollution, and ecosystem disruption. So solutions need to be held out. So we have different journals proving that water has memory. Different physicists have come up with thermoluminescence and different techniques to show water can hold memory. And that's the principle of homeopathic medicine, is that you can put a natural herb or substance in the water, dilute it, shake it, dilute it, and it will hold that energy. And the more you dilute it, the more powerful it becomes. That's the basis of homeopathic medicine. So, but anyway, so the idea then is that science is showing us that water has a memory, and that it can also, in addition to holding the good resonant frequencies of nature, it can hold the bad man-made frequencies of satellites and computers. So it's no longer important enough when we consider water purification just to filter out the toxins. We have to be concerned with the imprint that the toxins left in the water as well. And that's the basis of Hydra Blue. We take that information out of the water so it doesn't interfere with how cells communicate with one another. The history of my work started in the 70s and 80s. I was a medical audiologist working in hospitals, university. I did research at Temple University School of Medicine, City University, different hospitals in New Jersey as a medical audiologist. At the time, published many papers in medical journals. My idea was to find out what it would take to restore the electrical stability of the inner ear. The electrical stability of the inner ear. When the inner ear gets unstable, it generates tinnitus, noises. Some people, depending upon the anatomy, they inherited, whatever they inherited from their parents, ancestors, have very small circulation in certain areas. And those are the first areas to be affected by water that causes lymphostasis, lymphedema, that restricts circulation into capillaries, microcirculation areas like the inner ear, kidneys, depends on the genetics there. But so we came up with a system that produced that type of energy, that type of coloration, and did it consistently, and then came up with the term quantum and quantum medicine, quantum nutrition back in the 80s, and other publications. I wrote a column in the Townsend Letter for Doctors, an alternative medicine journal, entitled Quantum Medicine Update. Publication started in the 90s, and a lot of the publications talked about flexoelectric technology. What is that, flexoelectric? Well, that basically was the beginning of my work that was aimed at restoring cell resonant polarity. That was the beginning of it. And as it went on and on, we began to really improve the technology. We were taking pictures before and after people drank the water who, on a digital infrared thermogram, showed inflammation. After drinking the water, 5-10 minutes later, inflammation gone. So we were also looking at the before and after heart variability test. I did research to show gigahertz frequency can amplify viral infection. And that was published in 1995, entitled Bioactive Frequencies and Opportunistic Infections. How frequencies from the environment that are not natural can amplify infections. And then we have the spectrum of energy that shows where cell phones are, where most of modern day technology, FM radio frequencies, that's the full spectrum. We're down on the bottom, exahertz nanotesla, 0-point energy, where all the colors form rainbows, come together as one. That's where we're at. And we found out the components of nature that produce that. And we're able to reproduce it again and again and again. So, idea is that we need color in water, we need polarity. If we don't have it, the cells get toxic, and we limit the ability of the body to repair and regenerate itself. There was an excellent article published in Seminars in Cell and Developmental Biology 2010 And for the first time, this group of scientists admitted that we need to be concerned less with chemistry and more with ion flows, more with bioelectric signaling of cells, feedback loops, more with polarity. That's what they're saying here. See what they're saying? Long-range communication, polarity, and information transfer. They said this is the basis of how the body regenerates itself. So we want anti-aging. If we want to live long and healthy, we have to think about cell polarity, don't we? This is more research. I'm not going to elaborate on it. A lot of good science behind cell polarity influencing many functions of the body, immunity, endocrine function, detoxification function of the liver, you name it. More research here. Here's a quote from Dr. Mancheo, University of California. He said, electric signals are an overriding guidance cue for directional cell migration in wound healing. So if we damage our bodies, inflammation, long-term inflammation damages the bodies, we want to repair that damage, don't we? Well, we have to be concerned with electric signals and water. We do. We really have to be concerned with that. So water is the key for putting back cell polarity that we have depleted from our environment or from the water we drink. It's the cell polarity that allows the inner physician to coordinate so many functions efficiently at the same time and to cleanse the body and nourish the body through the inner ecosystem. This is the before and after picture. This is water coming out of a well that's been put through filtration. Okay, we took all the toxins out, filtered it, reversed osmosis it. But look at the color on the right. And then compare it to the color of the crystallization patterns of water that's gone through our system. Same system that makes the Hydra Blue. Now watch this video clip here. Watch the video clip. This is Dr. Michael Davidson, optical microscopy, Florida State University. Look at that. He didn't know what he was measuring. He was blind. He didn't know which water was which. But look at that. So you see, color denotes frequency, does it not? So we're looking at but with frequency and color alone, without polarity, doesn't mean anything. See, some people they say they have rainbow water. Well, the color doesn't mean anything unless the polarity is there and it's up in the exahertz nanotesla range where it can protect the body from cell phone, Wi-Fi frequencies that are held and stored in the memory of the water and fluid in our bodies. That's the point. So water can turn on or off the microbiome. The microbes that digest our food, that help our body detoxify, that defend ourselves against cancer, pathogens, they need to have the correct polarity coming in. When we think about the microbial cells, we're 10% human cells and 90% microbial cells. So we host an inner ecosystem of hundreds of strains of microbes. And none of today's so-called probiotics can fix that problem. They can't even touch it. Neither can yogurt, neither can any kind of fermented food. Because the moment we ever took an antibiotic at any point in our life, we have fatally wiped out hundreds of strains of beneficial microbes that are part and parcel of our inner ecosystem. So my role in quantum medicine was to find a way to put that back. These are leading these are journals, science journals, Nature, Scientific American. The whole topic was on the inner ecosystem. They're saying, quote, we are each a walking superorganism, hosting our own micro-community They perform important tasks such as breaking down the food components to make them digestible or processing nutrients so we can make use of them, end quote. So leading scientists and Nobel laureate prize winners are saying the ecosystem is where it's at. We need to stop putting an antibiotic bomb into the system and blowing up and slaughtering our microbes. We need to stop that. And more research is coming out that there's also a brain-gut connection, see? So a lot of what goes on in the brain, depression, different mental symptoms, anxiety, is related to the microbiome or a disrupted ecosystem, you might say. So as we go on, these are some more journals that have featured articles on the microbiome and the importance of restoring the microbiome. Dr. Jeremy Nicholson, Imperial College of London, is a world-renowned leader in this, and he's done some incredible studies showing how restoring the microbiome can improve health. This is a quote here from Dr. Bangmark. He said, quote, several 100,000, if not millions of symbiotic compounds or nutrients are released by microbial fermentation. So, where does our nourishment come from? From the food we eat that ferments in the gut via the correct spectrum and diversity of microbes. So we have to put back what we lost by taking an antibiotic at any point in our life. That's where Quantibiotica comes in. That's where water comes in. It's so important because water keeps these microbes ionically stable, alive, active, proliferating, finding a permanent home in the gut versus just passing through transiently. That's the idea. This is Dr. Ben Mark, another quote from him. Lund University, Sweden, he says, health and well-being depend on the availability of some more than 2 million different molecules supplied by foods and made available in the large intestines by dramatically decreased in modern society. Modern man has reduced this to a few dozen. And furthermore, many important molecules in foods are destroyed by modern methods to store and prepare the food, end quote. So, who's talking about nourishing the microbiome? I don't know of anyone except myself right now. And that's a shame because 90% of our cells in our body are not being nourished. If we don't nourish them and put them back in the correct ratios, how can we expect to get healthy? How can we expect to keep our bodies clean? To keep our bodies regenerating and repairing the damage we do to it? Because we are our own worst enemy. Inflammation is a killer, and it's silent. It goes on, eats away at our tissues, at the gut linings, the mucosa. We have to be able to tame that, to deal with that. More research here about how the ecosystem services performed benefit us, but we need biodiversity and sustainability. Just like any ecosystem in the natural world, we need that diversity. If we lose that diversity, we lose the ability to restore what Hippocrates called the doctor within the body and the regenerative capacity of the body, which he called the greatest healing force. Those words were ever so true and right. And that was before antibiotics were ever discovered in 1927. But the point is that we need biodiversity to get optimal nourishment and to detoxify. That will give us this sustainability so that we can build stronger partnerships between our microbial cells and our human cells. The thing about the habitat, we think about microbes in an ecosystem, we have to have the correct habitat, or they won't find a home. They won't stay in the gut ecosystem. And so we have to realize that part of restoring that habitat, a huge part of that, is having water that hydrates the body that gets into the cell, because the microbial cells are made mostly of water, just like human cells are. So if they're carrying the right water, they can expand, they can colonize, they can proliferate. And when they start fermenting the food, they can generate hundreds of different strains of beneficial microbes. That's what we want, to restore the inner ecosystem. Water can improve the crosstalk between cells. It can restore wholeness and restore disrupted ecosystem in our bodies. Water can help us to have less or more energy, to be more or less resilient to stress, to be more effective at keeping pollutants and toxins in this world we live in out of our body instead of being stored to form cysts, tumors, and to cause cancer, because many pollutants are carcinogens that eventually cause cancer. So bile then is the main, bile is what restores the habitat. Bile is also a proven anti-inflammatory. What happens with man-made chemicals or water that's ionically unstable is it turns off the hepatocyte, the liver cell, so it fails to produce enough bile. This means that we can't use herbal medicine to help the problem. We can't stimulate something that's not there. As it turns out, research coming out of Hungary, several university researchers have proven that the polarity of the hepatocyte is critical to whether or not it produces ample bile. Well, guess what? All man-made chemicals, all synthetic chemicals have a positive ionic charge and disrupt the polarity of hepatocytes, just as they disrupt the polarity of the microbial cells. Turn them off so they don't express their vast genetic intelligence. Microbes have 5 million genes. Human cells, 23,000 genes. 5 million genes untapped. Can you imagine? If that genetic expression was in the right direction, what could happen? You could be faced with any kind of health roadblock and break through it. At any rate, so that's the concept, osmosis, ionics affecting blood pressure, we talked about that. Social networking of the inner ecosystem, how these cells work together, communicate through a process called quorum sensing, how they communicate through quorum sensing, and form a social network that helps, that teamwork helps to digest our food, produce all these hundreds of thousands of nutrients that we need. We don't need science to tell us what we need. The microbiome knows what we need. Just put it back. It'll put everything back that belongs in our system and eat healthy organic food. So water then, the polarity, this is the summary of what we talked about. Water improving memory, moods, cognition, how cell polarity is important to regeneration, and fluid balance. A lot of good research here. How water can affect genetic expression. It can move the genes, 5 million genes of the microbe, to express themselves to our benefit, to the benefit of their host. Or they can produce toxic compounds. They can work against us and create all kinds of stress. The gut-brain axis research, that was just published not too long ago, but now they have shown proof that if they manipulate or change the spectrum of bacteria in the gut, they can change the moods. They can stop depression, anxiety, panic attacks. They can eliminate panic attacks, all kinds of incredible things. So we know that when people have these issues, it's not a matter of reaching for St. John's wort for depression, or treating symptomatically, we have to look at the bigger picture. What do we want? Wholeness. We want wholeness. We want to restore the inner physician and the ecosystem, not treat symptoms, not put bandages over problems. We want to correct them, and that's the point we're trying to make. And water is critically important in that direction. Critically important. So the quantum domain of water, we talked about that. The idea to restore the quantum domain of water means that we can restore the body's embryologic wisdom. We can put the body in a higher rate of regeneration and repair. These are some research studies we did with inflammation before and after, showing the differences of inflammation, digital thermography before and after hydration. Other researchers have done similar studies showing hydration reduces inflammation, anxiety, depression, cognitive disorders. Before and after pictures of a patient with inflammation, and then after drinking the water, clearing the inflammation. You realize what's happening here, don't you? You can't excrete toxins effectively unless you have good water. Once you drink the water, the toxins that induce and promote inflammation, they go out of your body, and inflammation goes down. We all want to get rid of inflammation. We all have it to some degree. But it's not healthy when it's prolonged and unwanted. It damages our body. So the idea is that chronic inflammation, now this is an autonomic nervous system response, heart variability, electrocardiogram test, before and after the water. It even changes the efficiency of the heart and the autonomic nervous system. Very quickly, 5 minutes after drinking the water, we took another electrocardiogram, and there's improvements. All kinds of empirical studies, blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure. People with blood pressure 100, diastolic 190, 110, they go right back down to 80, 85. Beautiful. Beautiful improvements fast, just by drinking water. They don't need diuretics. They don't need herbal diuretics. They don't need any changes except better quality of water. So we see that. We've done research with water showing that the major stressor our patients have in our office, they're coming in, is water. The water they shower, bathe with, and the water they drink. That's the major stress they're dealing with. And when you think about how much water is in the human body, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Sure does. So in summary, we talked about the need to restore water so that it can nourish us, so cells can communicate more effectively, so we can create a habitat for the good bacteria, the microbiome, to find a permanent home in the gut, so we can excrete instead of store toxins in our system, so they can improve fluid pressure, lymph fluid pressure, cell extracellular pressure, so that the inner physician has more clout and flexibility in dealing with the daunting challenges of a toxic and stressful world.
Yeah, anytime.
Good questions. Somebody thinking. I have to get in front of the camera. Okay. So, first question is, how does water keep the energy once bottled? Good question. Well, first of all, the energy that we're putting into it is exahertz nanotesla. It's the highest energy, frequency, and shortest wavelength known to man. And since it's above Wi-Fi, megahertz and gigahertz, and modern-day electro technology, it's resistant to all that energy. So once you put back that full spectrum energy, the water will repel and keep away any other negative influences for a long time, for years. That's what it comes down to. The highest frequency dominates in nature. What does 0 point mean? Well, there's a lot of good books on 0 point. It's basically when all the colors can form rainbows and come together as one. And we can see that. We saw that under the video, under the microscope. If I'm holding my cell phone with Wi-Fi and the Hydra Blue bottle in one hand, I'm running errands, I just ruined the polarity and memory of the water. It's impossible. You can't. Because the frequency in the water exceeds the frequency of the cell phones and the Wi-Fi. How does the use of plastic bottles water? Certain plastic bottles make the water toxic. Carbonate, not bad, no problems, no negative. What about water? Doesn't have any effect. We've tried every type of shipment and transportation there is. No effect, no negative effects. Have any studies been done with parasites in Hydra Blue? No, not that I know of. Not that I know of. But we've had many patients come with Clonorchis, Fasciola hepatica, and different types of liver duct parasites. Clear them after the bile came up. The water turns down the bile, and guess what? Parasites hate bile. If you have enough bile, you will never have parasites. Even if you eat parasitic food, you will push them, flush them out because parasites hate bile. It took me a long time to learn that. Dr. Huda Clark was in the right direction, but using the wrong methods. So, at any rate, how does Hydra Blue increase the cell polarity? Well, that's complicated. You have to know some quantum physics to understand that. But basically, it does it by the fact that it's full spectrum, that it's producing rainbow colors, that it's crystallizing, that it has a higher level of intelligence and a higher level of coherence. That's the answer. Can restoring the quantum domain of water regenerate our genetic fields? Of course. Of course. Genes turn on and off with the correct type of water. What structural aspect of hydro water is actually producing the polarized light pattern? Don't understand that question at all. Whoever asked it, I don't know what you're talking about. What does cement?
No, why? Why? When you put it on cement to raise the voltage.
Well, because if you put a battery on a cement floor, it'll drain the polarity of the battery. So if you put the water on a cement floor in your garage or basement, you can expect it to have some drainage, but the resonant frequency will remain. But you will lose the polarity, some of it anyway.
So that'd be a good idea to not store your water on concrete then.
Yeah. You don't want to store it on there.
Where do you want to store it?
Yeah, but it's a longer term effect. It takes a couple months, but it'll drain the voltage out of the water. So just
Well,
like
where do you store it then?
well, above 12 feet. You can also put mylar down, which is like a foil,
Wood shelf?
or up on a wood shelf, or anywhere. Yeah, not all houses are made of cement, but you want to keep it off the cement for longer periods of time. A couple weeks, a month, it's not going to do anything. But for longer periods of time. Yeah, and also electrical outlets. You want to keep it away from anything that's going to affect it. It's not going to, especially really strong, like the whole circuit board or something. So you want to keep it away from electricity. Over time, again, it can pull away some of the voltage. Because water is going to absorb anything that's in its area, any energy. Even though it's high frequency, it can affect the voltage over time. Well, it depends on the health problem, right?
Good. It actually depends on the health problem. So
Sorry.
if somebody's got,
Read the question.
how much water should one drink, Hydra Blue water, should one drink with a health problem? Both of my patients do well on 2 ounces twice a day. That's all. Remember, vegetables are 90% water, raw vegetables. And if you just get enough in the system to put the polarity, and even if you take a small amount of this and put it in a gallon of other water, it'll spread through that water because it carries that energy. Okay.
And we, prior to this product, we had a product called Hydra Booster, many of you are familiar with, and it was used in clinics mostly where you mixed it, and that was how it was produced originally. And then we did a study with 30 of our customers, and we found drinking the Hydra Blue water directly, a couple bottles a day, made a dramatic difference. Okay, so because of the quality of the water that people are mixing it with, doesn't have polarity in it that will hold that energy for very long. So that's why we recommend a couple bottles a day, but you can do it with less. And it depends on your diet also. Depends, if you're eating lots of vegetables and you're eating healthy, then you can get away with less water because you have a high water content food. So I think that's what he was talking about as well. And Hart has had some tremendous results with Hydra Blue water, and he's going to come up and tell us about it.
If you want me to, I can.
Absolutely.
Public speaking, I'd love to talk about some things that I don't think are being hit here, some real world effects.
Yeah, right.
If I could come up and talk.
Come on up. Yeah.
All right. You got to get your left leg there, huh? Okay, I'll just shut it down there. We'll be good. I'm not going to move too much. As you can probably tell, I don't really need a microphone. My name is Hart D. Fisher. I host a radio show called Heart Attack. And on this radio show, we discuss a lot of what's being done to you, your bodies, with the law, with the chemicals, and what's happening in this country with our people. Government is lying to you folks. They're lying to you in so many ways and in so many different venues. And they're trying to hush up material like this. Now, I discovered Hydra Blue last summer. I'm a martial artist. I do horror films. And my wife's a cancer patient. Because that cancer is a lifetime disease. You're going to be dealing with cancer. If it's in your life, it's something that's on your mind the rest of your life. It's about a lifestyle, and it's about the choices that you make, what you put into your body, who's around you. Now, this water that's around us that we have is very sickening. It's dead. It's messed up. It's chlorinated. It's polluted. It's filled with fluoride. All right? My wife's from Japan. She's Japanese. She's lucky to be alive. She had ovarian cancer and some other kinds of cancer that were very nasty. She had a 50-50 chance of staying alive past 5 years. Well, hey, we're on year number 8. We made the changes that we had to make. And if you want to know what Hydra Blue did for us, oh man, it's helped us a lot. I've been dealing with her as her primary caregiver. I've been surviving with coffee. Coffee's energized me. Until I met Brian and was introduced to Hydra Blue, I was drinking coffee every morning. As soon as I got out of bed, I had to have that coffee. And a lot of the people I work with in the film industry got to have that Monster Energy drink in their hand all the time. And these are kids. These are 23-year-olds. These are 21-year-olds. Guys, I'm 44. Do I look like I'm 44? Because I like to drink Jack Daniels every night. Right? I'm a hard-drinking, hard-working, hard-partying guy. But look at me. I'm 44, guys. I don't work out every day. I've been on Hydra Blue for a year, and I can tell you within 1 month of being on Hydra Blue on a regular basis, I didn't crave coffee anymore. It just kind of phased out of my life. I didn't like, honey, I need to have that cup of joe. I didn't need it anymore. I didn't know that. No one told me that. They say, oh, you're going to be energized. Well, what does that mean? It means I can think better. It means I can get more work done. It means my mind functions better because they nailed it when they say that so much of your brain is made with water. And you think, oh, well, I'm getting tired, let me get some coffee, which dehydrates you more. Or if you're a fighter, I do martial arts. Hydration is very important when you're out there and you're wearing your uniform and you're sweating to death. And you're sweating off gallons of water. You need good water. It's very, very important. As for my wife, she has a problem with lymph drainage. Her right leg is swollen up twice its normal size. And it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, luckily, I met a pretty decent doctor, and he's the guy who introduced me to Brian, Dr. Adam Del Torto. He introduced me to Brian in this water. And since we've gotten on this water, my wife's leg is going down. Slowly but surely, it's going down. And we had no idea what to do. We were terrified. You can't fly anywhere. She might get a blood clot. Can't go back to Japan and see your family. This makes a real difference in your life, and you think, it's just water. Water you're going to die with before food. If you go without food for 3 or 4 days, you probably live. You ain't going 3 or 4 days without water, guys. You're not. And those bottles are right. Those are safe bottles. Those bottles aren't going to leak chemicals into what you're drinking. And when he talks about absorbency, that's a real issue. It's a real issue. I had an issue with the shower, with where I lived, with the water was making me ill. The steam from the shower was making me ill. Why? It was carrying all the spores and stuff in the air into me. We had a problem with mold in our bathroom. Well, we moved, we went to someplace else, and lo and behold, I didn't get sick in the bathroom anymore. It's real simple. Your skin absorbs everything. You're going to take a long, hot bath, you're going to absorb everything in that water. Now, when he talks about high-frequency water, and you say, well, how come my cell phone isn't messing it up? The energy memory of the water is stronger than the frequencies coming out of the cell phone. Over time, if you sit there and you put it next to it forever, yeah, it's got memory, it's going to pick up on it. But it's time for us to get smart. It's time for us to listen to the science and start changing what we put in our bodies and the way we look at our bodies. What you said about a superior system is so smart. It is so smart what you said about antibiotics destroying the flora and fauna within your intestines and all this issue about probiotics. The water helps. The water has helped me deal with stress. It has helped me deal with the pressures of launching a horror TV network. And I'm out there selling Hydra Blue. I'm on the radio on my show and I sell Hydra Blue. Why? Because I care. Because I want other people that are sick to drink it. All right? Now that's my personal story. I'm not just some sales guy. No one's paying me to be here. That's it.
So this is the customer story section of the kind of hard to follow that act, I think.
Slow down.
Does somebody else have a customer story they'd like to share? Come on, don't be shy. Yeah, Hart, you just made it tough for everybody else.
Sorry. What do I do for the...
Scott still here?
All right, yeah. Dr. Hoffman's going to break the ice here.
Dr. Yannick's seminar last year, and I was sitting in the front row exactly where I was today, and I was sadly nodding off because of the overeating or just tired. And anyway, Brian came around. He was passing out these wonderful bottles of water, and I took a bottle and I said, "What the hell?" I drank it, and I experienced for the first time in my 35-year career as an alternative physician, it changed my physical body almost instantly. And I'm thinking to myself, that can't happen. That's impossible. Nothing can do that. And I'm not proclaiming that it instantly gave me energy, although it did. And and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Ani Papaisan. I'm a practitioner in Valley here in Tarzana. And I just want to say some of my clients, I've been carrying water, selling about a year, a little over a year. And some of my clients, what I like that they tell me about it is their energy, about 3, 4 o'clock, you want to make that Starbucks stop. And I just ask them to do about half a bottle of water and then just see what happens. And they've been just telling me that how it changes. They don't crave that, they don't have that energy drop, and they need something to bring it up. So that's been great. And usually, I had only one client that I think it was too powerful for him because he got just too much of the energy burst. Actually, it made him lightheaded. So I had him to actually go down, start very slow, and then build it up to a level that he can have 1 or 2 bottles a day. But that's how it's so powerful. So that's great. Thank you.
I'm a consultant, and I met Brian and other clients, and we've been friends ever since, and I've been using his water. I immediately saw within a day or two a lifting of a mental fog that many times I had in the mornings and sometimes couldn't even shake all day. And I would say also that more energy. If I don't have it, I immediately notice it. In the morning, first thing, I use 1 bottle. We tried using more, and that kind of tipped me over the edge. I just got way too jittery. So, sometimes more is not the best thing. So it works, at least certainly for me.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys giving your stories.
My name is Mary Dayhout, and I'm a clinical nutritionist in San Diego. And I heard about the water about 2 months ago, and I didn't get the direction not to take it late at night and tell your body you're still it. So long about 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm still buzzing around, cleaning the house. Maybe it was 3 o'clock in the morning. And then one of the first people I tried it on was a friend of mine, and she said, "Oh my God, it's 10:45, I'm still cleaning." So we noticed a lot more energy. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stephen Creevy, and I'm actually just very new to LA. And I had a friend who had an addiction, and he was working with a doctor, Dr. Moses, and he put him on a Hydra Blue. And I knew all about the technology, and I knew all about the theory behind it anyway. And I was trying to do it myself at home. And then when he came out and said, "Listen, have a look at this bottle, try this water," I knew immediately what it was. And I was like incredibly wanting to get behind the product and you know, really get it out there for other people. So I contacted Brian, and Brian's like, "Listen, try a couple out, see what you think." And I'm in contact. I'm in Malibu, and I'm in contact with a lot of athletes and a lot of people in high performance yoga instructors and everything like that. So I started dropping this water on them. They were freaking out within the first 2 days, just because I'm guessing their systems were so. They were just I don't know. They were able to really drink the water and get results straight away. Like in their workouts, within 4 days, they were like 3 days. They were ringing me up, texting me, "I'm doing twice as much as I can do. My times are increasing." Yeah, everything was going through the roof. So physically, on a physical level, I don't know. And I told them, I don't know how far you can push this. I don't know what, you know what I mean? It hasn't been kind of tested in that way. Everyone, good luck. You know what I mean? And they were just, now I can't stop them drinking. Thank you.
Ayla, come on. Come on. We know you want to tell your story. She's one of our best customers. She never misses. She's a little shy, so. But you know, if she runs out of water, we hear about it. Believe me. She's got my cell phone. It doesn't matter what time, what day. If she runs out, it's trouble. So, you know, so she's always got the water. We make sure of that.
My name is Hale. I've been a customer for 2 years. His water has basically really saved my life in many ways. I'm going through a health issue, so in the morning I'm extremely fatigued. I can't get up. I can't get out of bed. But as soon as I have the Hydra Blue, I have my energy, and I'm like up and running, and I'm really good. And I tried being without it, and I crash. So, and in addition to Dr. Paul Yannick's products, it just has changed my life. Amazing. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stacy Brown. I'm actually Steve's wife, so I've been brought into this through him. A friend of ours introduced it to us. We've been kind of playing around with ideas of crystals and water and frequencies and things like that, but just never quite got it right. I grew up with a condition called hyperhidrosis, which gave me a lot of, there was a lot of sweating, a lot of things like that, but mainly my biggest problem was anxiety, and it felt like I was in a constant state of dehydration that just felt aggressive in my body. Like it just felt like I could never get it right, no matter how much water I drank, it didn't matter. But it just gave me so much anxiety. I tried all the homeopathic remedies, the chamomile, the St. John's wort, ginkgo biloba, whatever you could do. None of it really worked. And it felt like more and more things were piling on. All of a sudden, we've only had this probably for 2 months, and I'd say about 4 months, 6 months ago, I started getting like rashes all over my legs that would come and go, and I could never get them diagnosed because they'd go and then they'd come back. And I was just about to go to a doctor and ask about it, got onto the water and haven't had them since. So I'm super happy about that. So I think a lot of it had to do with the whole hydration and what this water is doing. So that was the biggest.
about Dr. Joe? You want to come up here? So Joe and I started actually with the very first technology that I had. So he was one of the first practitioners that I ever talked with. He's the first partner, the first guy I invested and believed in me. And he's probably going to make you laugh, so I won't put too much pressure on him. But he helped do it. He had a clinical nutritional practice in Studio City for a number of years, and we did a lot of our studies and hydration testing at his clinic and at different trade shows and things. So we've worked together, ever since the beginning. It's been about 8 years now. So here's Dr. Joe.
Thanks, Brian, and thanks to everybody for showing up. And Paul, it's certainly great to see you and have you here. I'll tell you a story about a little 4-year-old boy as a patient, and it will bring home the whole idea of the hydration and the biome that lives in our body. Another practitioner had a good friend whose 4-year-old boy was having very severe gastrointestinal problems, and after being visited to places like UCLA, Mayo, some of the best places in the country, the consensus was they needed to remove this little boy's colon. Put it back, right? That's what our medical science came up with. So after doing a really good health history on the little boy and the family, I found out that the boy was born premature, 12 weeks, lived in an incubator, never got breastfed by his mom. He had no gut terrain or bacteria to speak of at all. So he couldn't eat food. He would resist food because he wouldn't go to the bathroom. So he was in a real, severe state. So, since he's small and he's little, you have to come up with something that works that's easy to try. So what I did is I used Hydra and I used Quantibiotica. And I gave the little boy a little bit of Quantibiotica each day and a little bit of Hydra. So I told the mom to call me back in a week and tell me how we were doing. And it was one of those phone calls that every practitioner loves to get, but you're not sure what to expect. So I get her on the phone and she's crying. So now I'm thinking, I either severely screwed up or perhaps something good occurred. And she told me for the first time since her little boy had been alive, he was asking to eat food. Okay, 1 week, by restoring hydration and restoring his gut bacteria, the little boy started to show remarkable results. Now this is the kind of stuff that can happen when listen to what Paul describes with the inner physician. The body knows what it wants to do, and you have to have good hydration for the cell signaling to take place and all of the other things that go in there. So that's one of my all-time favorite stories, because now the little boy is healthy and vibrant and happy, and he's not walking around with a bag attached to his stomach. And all the time I've been working with Brian, and for all the people that have been part of this, and Carolyn and everybody that's just been there, it's been great. It's a good experience. So thank you for all drinking the water, and hopefully you'll help promote it in every chance you can. Hearing from everybody who drinks it, it's the best thing happening. So thank you.
So, any other stories? Thank you, Joe, by the way. Appreciate that.
Question.
Yeah, question. Go ahead.
So what? This is the first time I've been to hear about the Hydra. Actually, kind of heard of it. Do you drink it in bottles? Do you have concentrate? What is it that you have?
The Hydra Blue is a ready-to-drink water. Okay, so it's packaged in that way, so you just drink it. So it's on the bottle. It says the best time to drink it's first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. 1 or 2 bottles a day is really enough. You can drink more if you want to. One of the things that this water does that we've kind of touched on, but remember he talked a lot about how the water in your body absorbs the frequencies around you, so the cell phone frequency, your gigahertz. Well, the body is storing that energy. Okay, it becomes stagnant in the body. It's like the body's a finely tuned FM radio station, and you've got static on it. Okay, and so what you have is you have this energy buildup and stagnant energy that's in the system. As soon as you drink the Hydra Blue, because it's so high frequency, it just dissipates all that energy. As So some people, they say, yeah, I feel more energy, but I just feel better, you know. I just feel less stress. You know, I sleep better. So it has that added benefit of restoring the body's energy field and being more, so that you're more resilient to the stressors of electronic pollution. So I didn't mean to get off on that tangent. I just want to make that point because it's not just the hydration that you're doing. You're actually reducing and getting rid of that stagnant energy that we're all bombarded with.
Thanks, Brian. I'm Sean Tanay. I'm a nutritionist in Corona Del Mar. I have a very successful practice down there. And I came across the Hydra Blue water at the Longevity Now conference. And I started just checking it out and reading the literature on the bottle and came across quantum technology. And so I thought I'd do a little bit more research and reach out to Brian and figure out what the deal is with this water. And, was pretty amazed by the results of drinking this water. And so I got my whole family on it. And I have cases inside my clinic, so every client that comes in, they walk home, you know, they go home with a case or two. And I had a couple of doctors taking this water, and they ran out of the water. And after running out of the water, they called me saying, hey, Sean, I can feel the difference not drinking this water for a couple of days. I need to get more of this water. So. The water is really powerful energetically, and so that's kind of my story with the water, and so I'm just still testing the water out and getting the wonderful benefits with the water, so thank you.